award-winning and excellent. And in her day job, she teaches. Some of her students are here. And also a side job, she runs our book club here at the Raleigh Public Library. They're currently reading In the Heart of the Sea, The Tragedy of the Welsh of Essex by Daniel Clover. This is our Raleigh Read selection, so we're gearing up to have a lot of fun events surrounding whaling and history, and Polly, who's also here, is going to do a couple other book discussions for us. So that's upcoming, and I put out a couple of flyers here. If anyone's interested in learning more about Raleigh Reads or In the Heart of the Sea. Is there anything else you want me to mention? Or you can...
I think that's it.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for coming out. It's such a cold night. I have to stand here. I have my broken glasses. They're not as broken as these, though. I was going to take these out tomorrow during AP if I can find them. Another pair. Even worse.
Are they just?
Oh, I have the lens for them.
Are they just magnifiers?
Yeah, but I like these. They're from Job Lot because these are really light. And my other ones are too heavy.
I think it's a trend setting.
No, because actually I like them fine. Oh, I'm on TV with them on too. So
Oh, good. Okay.
okay. Comfortable who I am. Really?
BBC?
So I'm going to read a section from a story I haven't read aloud before, but a friend of mine who may come in, a good friend of mine, I was in Gloucester with me, in Salem with me yesterday for a little reading, and she came to see me, and she came late, and she missed the reading. And she heard the last part of it, and then she said, oh, I really wanted you to read the second story in the collection. And I thought, okay, well, so tonight she's coming, so I'll read it. And I have to say, because my students are here, and also my daughter and her friend are here, that it is an adult story. So there's
We're 18.
you've read Beloved. You've read some stuff.
Maybe we're right Beloved.
So this is called True. Yeah, there's no cows.
There's no
There probably are cows.
There probably are cows.
Well, not except
Definitely at least one cow.
Subtext.
Indigo.
Okay. So again, thank you all for coming. I think it was 9 degrees in my car tonight, so I really appreciate you coming out on a cold night, and I hope you helped yourself to the hot drinks and the food. This story is called No Sooner. Robbers, Rita calls them, a word I haven't thought about in years. She thinks I'm serious when I say, like cat burglars? Sleek men dressed in black, creeping along apartment building ledges after secret formulas? Marble-jawed martial artists wearing eye masks? It's hard not to think of their haunches, those muscles, poised and pouncing. Oh, but Rita. She's still chewing ends of her knitting needles, contemplating robbers who, it seems to me, would be fatter and would forego spandex for cotton sweatsuits. They'd be more likely to paint their faces with charcoal and screw up the job. What concerns Rita truly are break-ins, the kind that have been happening in this neighborhood. Instead of secret formulas and diamond necklaces, your iPods, your laptops, your accumulation of portable technology go missing. Rita is my mother-in-law, and her son Michael and I live in a home that would disappoint even the least acquisitive thief. No necklaces, save ones made with macaroni that our twin daughters craft in preschool. Little technology, except for an Apple IIe computer in our attic, and a small color television with rabbit ears on a TV tray in the unheated sun porch. If they're very, very lucky, they might find whole wheat ginger snaps in the pantry, and of course, Michael's homebrew in the old Frigidaire, the jugs filled with liquid dark enough to be mistaken for iced coffee. Michael has taken a half dozen at-risk boys, future perpetrators of break-ins and assorted other felonies, to the Berkshires on an adventure weekend that will feature a ropes course, winter camping, and on the final night, a talent show, which of all the week's activities will require the greatest amount of trust in one's fellow perps. Because my daughters and I will be alone with robbers in the neighborhood, Michael has invited his parents to stay with us. Just in case, he said. I explained to him patiently, as he strummed his guitar and penned a few lyrics. He writes children's songs and has sold a few. That one 80-year-old father, though spry enough to scale a ladder and clean out our gutters twice a year, and one 76-year-old mother who suffers from anxiety attacks, may not be much defense against marauders. In any way, I said, break-ins occur during the day when no one is home. They can happen any one of the days I am off with the girls while Michael is at work a few miles away. But Michael insisted, and since he rarely insists, and there have been moments in our marriage where I wished he would insist, strong arm, bully, instead of beaming at me, instead of contemplating, I agreed. I moved to the guest room. To the bed I had as a single woman with the same down comforter that makes Michael sneeze atop it. Rita protests. She won't hear of usurping my bedroom, even tries elbowing me out of her way at the top of the stairs, but this time I insist. In the sugary and not really funny joking voice her other children use, "Sweetie, no, I won't have it. Those old bones need a good night's rest if you're going to keep up with me." She guffaws and says, "Who are you calling old? I'll club you." I pretend to laugh and close the door, slide into bed delirious. My own room, my own comforter to which I am not allergic. Meanwhile, my husband may be bivouacking on the side of a mountain with a boy who knows how to make a bomb from a can of oven cleaner. A hulking boy, twice my tiny husband's weight. In my old room, my in-laws debate whether it is safe to soak dentures in bleach since they have left some necessary tablets at home. The girls sleep, Olivia coughing, Skylar flinging off her covers no matter that the house is cold. The house is always very cold. I miss no one but the lonely single woman I used to be, the yellow apartment walls pitted with holes from where I tried to hang pictures by eyeballing, only to discover I guessed high every time. The kind of moments my sister envisions for herself now that she is divorcing her husband and losing weight. She married out of high school to the first man she'd ever slept with, lived her life, raised her children, worried I would never settle down. Settle down is how she put it, which made me imagine myself on the frontier. A pioneer who, after fording rivers and cannibalizing fellow travelers, finds love. Now I wonder why she worried. Unhappy as she must have been, unsurprised, excited really, as she is now that her union is over. But I bought into it. Marriage myth, the what's wrong with me if I'm not story. Loved often and wrongly, fled sometimes and sometimes was deserted. Had given up relieved, moved into the apartment with the yellow walls when I met Michael. I sold office supplies out of my trunk, carted a crate of samples into his school. He offered to carry them for me, and I hesitated, worried he would drop them. "Patty," he said to the secretary, "after you lie and tell her the principal can't see her today, call me and I'll help her out to her car." The first few days knowing him, I sat at my table eating soup and thought, I could never love a man that small. Though he was handsome in a fine-boned, sculptured features way, he played songs for me, his tiny shoes off, lined up against the couch as if a boy had left them there on his way to bed. It was terribly embarrassing. But he made me laugh. He made my sister laugh. Funny, she called him, and wise. A man, she told me, concerned with bigger things. And he is, which was the first reason I loved him. My dream comes fast. I lie on grass. Summer. I worry about something, recognize that worm in my belly, but webby clouds fill the blue sky. Beside me, a lean young man stretches himself, Latino. With the stubble from such a few facial hairs, I know it is not possible, at least not yet, for him to grow a beard. This youngster, this not-so-handsome boy man. I recognize as well that feeling that supplants the worry in my stomach. It's farther south and hotter. I could lie here forever, but he insists on giving me a ring. I dread his gift. I remember the gifts from young men, the ideas they had of what women might love. Cloying perfumes and minuscule diamond earring studs. Michael's first gift to me was a packet of giant pumpkin seeds, then a wheelbarrow full of manure to get them off to a good start. Making my evenly spaced hills, I understood how to begin measuring out the attainable. Oh, right, I remember thinking, true love will not blow me away like a powder. True love is the slowest love I will be in. I believed it would burn so slowly it would make fire for the rest of our lives together. The Latino boy puts this ring on my finger, and I make little sounds over it. It fits my pinky. It is metallic red like bike paint. He confesses he had help picking it out. It comes to me, too, that sex, lots of it and quickly done, helps allay relationship doubts. So I kiss him, and he kisses back, and we are in someone's house, the shades drawn, and there are people there. My sister's fast friend, who has also lost weight, but who has dark circles under her eyes, asks if this means we are engaged. Oh, that, I say, wishing she would leave. He will be very patient and will tease me, a neck kisser, a soft toucher, and to enjoy this, I will need to banish any thoughts of how to leave him eventually. I wake to Olivia's coughing, 5 a.m., prop her up on an extra pillow. Outside, the streetlight illumines an empty street devoid of robbers, but the wind gusts upends a dried-out pot of mums on our front steps, slaps the shrink wrap on a neighbor's boat. In the kitchen, I brew a small pot of coffee, not the decaf Rita favors. Let me drink every drop and tremble through my morning, empty as it will be of young lovers. When dawn arrives, it reveals a blue tarp suspended in the bare branches of a tree. This big, wing-like kite of a thing appearing out of the night is a gift, its shape slowly realized by light. And then all day the question, how did that happen? Where did that come from? Until Louis wakes and goes outside without breakfast to see what it'll take to get it down. And Rita stands at the window muttering, I wonder what a mom doing. She makes herself a cup of instant decaf, toasts the white bread she brought with her, and sits down with the paper. She reads it with glasses bought at the drugstore. Same place she buys the boxes of chocolates she gives me every birthday. Mostly I have simple tastes, but I can't abide cheap chocolate. I thank her, of course, and later Michael and I have a laugh while he follows the map inside the cover to discover all the caramels. He can't resist them, a rare weakness. She likes you enough to fatten you up, he says. Like Hansel, I say. Though at times I am embarrassed that my husband writes children's songs, performs at birthday parties several times a year, I am always certain he'll understand fairy tale references. He holds out his finger. Not nearly fat enough, I say, taking hold of it, insubstantial as the digits of our daughters. I use it to puncture chocolate after chocolate. My father used to buy her the heart-shaped boxes for Valentine's, he said. The fancier, the better. She was the envy of all her sisters. Imagine that, to have married a thoughtful man. But then she worried about diabetes, so she made him stop. She is lucky that way. My father-in-law adores her. Turns off his animal shows if a snake appears. He walled up the bathroom window so that during thunderstorms she'd have a dark retreat to wait out the disturbance, sitting on the tub edge, humming to herself. He reads the extended forecast to see if conditions exist for any such weather before they make plans to leave home and her personal bomb shelter. Things Michael would probably do for me if I was crazy, but I'm so sane, I'm comfortable knowing his mother doesn't like me much. Her initial relief that her son wasn't gay or so much of a bohemian that he'd refuse marriage altogether ebbed once she learned we'd married on a hillside in Vermont. Michael's old college roommate, a Buddhist monk, presiding. But married is married, so she went along, though she wore a blue chiffon dress and pumps that sank into the ground at a reception filled with homebrew and barefoot people who could play guitar. I give you a lot of credit, she said to me that day, putting up with these people. True, there weren't many of my friends there, a few people from work and my sister who over-celebrated anything out of the norm. She'd dance and sing and let her kids get filthy, all the while collecting stories she'd share with book club friends when she returned to Earth. But Michael's friends had embraced me, had walked into Michael's apartment the first time we met, and bear-hugged me. He had sat with me in the kitchen as I stirred Michael's stew and asked me questions about myself, about office supplies, a job they found ironic since I myself had no office. I didn't dress like them, couldn't play an instrument or hold a tune. I had never chained myself to a fence to protest a nuclear power plant's presence. But I couldn't explain this to Rita, how they had acted as ushers coaxing me into Michael's world, how I had followed them. Maybe when we bought this house in a real neighborhood, affordable, within walking distance to a school, but purely by accident, Rita's hope that her oldest son would be just like his two brothers returned. But the doula-assisted home birth ended that. Why do you let him talk you into these things, she asked. God, he's foolish. He makes sense to me, I told her. to lots of people. He still does. Maybe this is the first reason I love him. The first reason I never leave him, though, is it might convince his mother she's right.
Thanks, everybody. So do we have any questions?
Do you have questions for me? Okay, Lily. What's like the longest you can think that you've spent on a single sentence in your stories? Because they're all so like well crafted.
That's a good question. I can't think of how long on a single sentence, but it takes me a very long time to write a short story.
Really?
That story, actually, one of the reasons I like that story is because for some reason I was playing around with if I could, I don't know how to plot anything. I mean, I don't understand plot. I mean, I can teach you guys, well, this is what the plot triangle looks like. Then I try to write it doesn't work that way. And so I had this idea that if I could just do 3 of something, that would plot my story out for me. So she has 3 dreams in the time that her husband is gone. I read you the first one, then she has 2 more. And that's how I structured that story. So this story came very quickly, but most of the stories take me 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years to do. And so in one sentence, I don't know. The stories themselves, a long time.
Wow.
I'm a very slow writer of fiction.
How do you motivate you to stick with it that long?
I have some really good friends who I call and say, can we go for a walk, Holly? Because I need some therapy. And I says yes. And Holly's the most productive writer I've ever met in my life. So she is she's great inspiration. I mean, I can't imagine not doing it. I couldn't not do it. So, and I don't think when I sit down to write a story, I don't say, oh God, here we go, 7 years. I'm always hopeful. And I also don't just do one thing at a time. So right now, for example, I have 3 different stories, and I have a novel, and I have some poems I'm playing around with, and that helps me because I'm not really good at sitting down and pursuing something from beginning to end. I'm terrified of first drafts. I love to revise, which I think is another reason why it takes me so long, because I just like to keep going back in there. But I'm always afraid of the first draft.
Have you ever had a poem turned into a story? Like it started as one form of writing and then turned into something else, or a story that you thought, oh, I could do that as a poem? Do you ever go back and forth, or do they come out like so differently in your mind that no?
Yeah, it's always very clear to me which is which.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Oh.
I think because they begin in such different places, poems are really instinctive. There's an image, there's a line that I can't exercise for some reason. Whereas with fiction, there's always this kind of what if. This story came from The Wiggles. Did you guys ever watch that when you were little?
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't watch that show. Because one of them looked like one of my friend's husbands, and then I kept thinking, what would you be attracted to one of the Wiggles if you go to a bar? I don't know why. And then my friend,
The guy who does Blue's Clues. I was wondering that.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
who would be attracted to him?
What do you like when you're like, trying to pick up girls? I don't know. But and then a friend of mine in college, she was tiny. And she dated this guy that I loved. He was a great guy, but he was a tiny. That's who this character is physically based on. He was a very small guy. He was very, very bright and good looking, and he played the guitar. And I just think, oh yeah, okay, he's not like he's nice guy, but he's so tiny. I mean, I have a husband who weighs 150 pounds. But that's not easy, anyway.
He's not short though.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
He's shrinking. No,
Yeah.
as it turns out. I found that out at the doctor's say. That's how much I know. That's how I know he weighs that. He weighs 150. But anyway, yeah. So that's those kinds of things. That's where the story came from. Like, so what would it be like to fall in love with one of the Wiggles? And that certainly doesn't translate into a poem for me. It has nothing. I wish it did. Because I would be a great poem. That's right. But that isn't the question I started with.
Yeah, that's interesting. And what about your novel? Did that start differently, or did that start as a story? Like I know Hemingway used to say that he would only write novels if he couldn't make them into short short stories. But did that happen with your novel? Did it start as a story?
Well, I had been writing short stories, and I was in some writing groups at the time, and I went off, again, I can't plot, so I go off on all these tangents, and one of my friends kept saying, I think it's because you really want to write a novel, and you keep telling yourself that these are short stories. So one day I was home, and I was trying to write a story about when I was 10. I lived in a small town, a little bit bigger, about the size of Ipswich, actually. So, and I was related to most of the people in it. But there was this carnival on the side of the road, and all of our fire department were volunteers, and they would run this carnival once a year. The games were like 10 cents. And I was allowed to walk up our lane, which is a quarter-mile long. I lived on a farm, so it was very rural, and then walk down Route 1, which at the time wasn't how we picture Route 1 now, it's houses, and then go to this carnival with my friend. I was 10, and my mother would let me do this, and she was pretty overprotective. And I met this man who ran a booth. And he rolled these balls down into the chute, and if you got a low score or a high score, you won a dog, and it was a prize every time. And I went for 3 nights and hung out only at his booth, and he let me play all night for free. And I came home, and I had all the little poodles hanging on my bedpost, and my mother said, "Where'd you get those?" And I said, "Some guy at the carnival."
Oh, God.
Right? And the next day, she let me go back. Because it was a different time. We didn't even think about those things, but that's the story that I had in my head, like, it's always stayed with me, that piece has always stayed with me. So I started to write a short story about that, and then I just kept going. And that was 12 years ago. It's still going. And so, that I didn't intend for that to be. And now I'm trying to think about, well, what would be a good novel I could write and maybe finish a little faster than 12 years? And that idea hasn't come to me. They keep putting together short stories. So.
Is there someone in your mind that you're telling these stories to? And do they change? Or is it just...
I don't think I think of audience right away. I think of the character's voice right away. That's one of the problems I'm having with the novel. I don't hear her voice as clearly as I hear the short story characters' voices. Or I've beaten it out of her after 12 years. I'm so worried about plot. I'm so worried about plot. And I did read a review of my book online in somebody's blog. I don't know who this person is, and she said, these are nicely written stories, but they have no plot. Oh, and it's like someone, we all have our biggest fear about ourselves, our biggest insecurities, and for someone to just, out you, and you go, oh, somebody noticed. So, I really lost sleep over that for a couple of days.
One blog post?
Yeah.
One blog post?
That's so not you. Don't let that get to you. You got this.
I got a book review on Amazon that said, meh. That's the entire review. The entire customer review, meh.
Well, and
1 star.
It slays you for a while. And
It does.
You
You're like, oh no.
Like with these guys, these kids are great readers, right? And we bring, some of the books, some of them absolutely love them and defend them.
Right.
And on the other side of the room, there's a kid who just despises them.
Right.
And
It's so
but that
subjective.
doesn't comfort me when you get the 1 star.
Yeah, I know.
From somebody you don't even know who this person is.
I know.
Any other questions?
I have one, and then vanish. Julia did though.
I did not.
Really good.
Okay. Well, I'll be here.
Thank you.
Have some cookies and cupcakes. Thanks again.
Oh, Miss B, I have a question. Do you like writing in a pen better or on a computer?
When you just asked her that last time.
I did not.
I'm pretty sure you did.
No, I didn't.
I'm sure her answer now.
For the rest of us might
Yeah.
know.
I never
Okay.
write prose on anything but a computer.
Really?
And I try to start poems with just a specific kind of pen
Pen.
and a specific kind of paper.
Of course.
And I try to handwrite them 4 or 5 or 6 times before I type them up.
Do you have to be in a special spot too?
No, I mean, it has to be relatively quiet. I'm not a multitasker. And when I started writing poetry in college, it was a flash dance age. So, I had I could only wear my sweatshirts and I'd cut the collar on them. Remember those? Remember flashbacks, right? I didn't like anything that was at all restricting, so it was big, wide sweats. I had a bandana, I used to put my hair up from my face. I didn't like anything to bother me when I started running. But now I have kids, so you have to kind of figure out, to be a little less persnickety.
Just a little.
It's worship vision for the cover of your next book of poetry.
Yes.
Hey.
All right, well, let's niggle.
Let's just sit here and stare at you for a while.